I'm Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist with Baby Bloom Nutrition. This is Nap Time Nutrition. Today we are talking about breastfeeding and weight loss. So I'll get that up here. Forget that. I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, so this is a really sensitive topic, and I want to first introduce that I'm a non-diet dietitian. I believe in chasing health as a comprehensive idea, and that weight is not the determining factor of your health. And there are a lot of things that influence weight, and I'm going to talk about a lot of those factors today. And the factors that I'm focusing on today are specifically for the postpartum period. But I do want to say that wherever you are in your life, whatever gender you are, whatever your profession or your socioeconomic status, there are a lot of factors that determine the number on the scale. And a lot of them are completely out of your control. And so chasing a number on a scale is not going to be beneficial to your stress level or to your quality of life. There are better ways. So I wanted to get that out right up front, and that's going to come up a few times. So I am talking about a sensitive topic here for a couple of reasons. We're talking about a woman's body image and her self-esteem. We're talking about breastfeeding, and today I am focusing on breastfeeding, although I do want to give a nod to those who are formula feeding. I do believe there's a place for it. I want to offer you as much support as possible, and I do that in other segments. This segment is specifically going to be for breastfeeding because we're talking about the physiologic changes that happen in the body during lactation. So I am not ignoring you. I am going to put up some other links in the comments that have to do with the decision to breastfeed or bottle feed or formula feed. It's a very charged decision, so I did not want to leave you out of the conversation. It's also a sensitive topic because pregnancy and breastfeeding can affect your self-image. As women, and men are subject to this as well, but I can only speak as a woman. We spend our entire lives surrounded by this diet culture, encouraging us to be a specific size and a specific shape. And for people who are finally comfortable with their bodies, however they get there, becoming pregnant can really upend all of that mental, sometimes physical work. And it can really mess with your sense of self. And then to add insult to injury in some cases, hopefully not your case, becoming a mother is an entire shift in identity. So not only is your body completely different and it's doing things that maybe you didn't anticipate and acting in ways that you didn't think would happen. On top of that, you have this shift in mental identity, this shift in your place in your community and your place in your family. And a lot of that is very difficult to deal with. And sometimes we reach back for that scale to try to gain our sense of self back, to try to gain control over what we can gain control of. And looking at your weight for that is very misguided and causes a lot of stress, which is something you really want to avoid in the immediate postpartum period. And well, let's face it, you want to avoid excess stress no matter where you are in life. If you have a history of diet and body dissatisfaction, you're already coming into it with a history of fighting your body, fighting your physiology. And there is a lot that has to do as far as weight loss after pregnancy with where you started. And if you call me or I can refer you to a dietitian who can help you get through intuitive eating and mindfulness and into a healthy relationship with food, you're going to find where your body naturally stabilizes. And that's going to put you at the best place before you're pregnant, both mentally and physically, because you'll be at the healthiest you could possibly be. When you get to a point where you've been restricting and you've been dieting in order to fit a certain size or a certain image, it can really get in the way of achieving health after a pregnancy because you've already been fighting and you don't have that much energy to continue that fight. And so you may see that your weight stabilizes at a place where you don't want it. And that can be very difficult. It's important to have an open conversation with your physician and to be in contact with a non-diet dietitian in order to help restore your physical and mental and emotional health after after having a baby. And well, after saying that, I realized I should have also mentioned a therapist because that's very important. So getting back to the actual topic, 1 in 5 women do not lose weight during breastfeeding. And you may hear around that that breastfeeding is a way to lose weight. Well, that shouldn't be the goal with breastfeeding. That's not the way to make that decision, but it is not the truth in any case for 1 in 5 women. So why is that? Women will come to me and say, I'm doing all the right things and I'm breastfeeding my child, and why am I not losing weight? I can't get rid of this bulge. And they inevitably grab their tummy and demonstrate. And it's such a hard thing to watch a woman struggle with that. So in the immediate postpartum time, it's very sensitive for bonding with the baby. And another dietitian, Rivki Berman, reminded me that I should mention this, although I have mentioned it in other segments, that the bonding is so important. And the transition to the new identity as a mother, which I mentioned, stress affects your interpersonal relationships, and it affects the bonding with the baby, and it affects your milk supply. So if you can eliminate that stress for the time being and try to use this time to really wrap your head around the fact that you're a mother, that you have a child to take care of, or in my case, it was 2 babies to take care of. So shout out to all you multiple gestation mamas. So, there are all these cliches. And I have in my notes here, insert cliches. This is the time when you should focus on all of that and appreciate your blessings. And yeah, well, cliches don't really help us. They are all true. They really are. And as a healthcare practitioner, I would love to tell you all of that. But I know that on your end, if you're listening to this, it's not helpful. And you can look back and say, wow, I wish I would have listened, but it's not going to help in the meantime. And I get that. I hear you. So let's talk about what really is affecting that, and why maybe you can let it go, because maybe the reason you're not losing weight is not within your control. And if that's the case and you can really internalize that, you can let it go and enjoy this relationship with your child and come back to some of this a little bit later, although hopefully with a healthy mindset about food. So first thing that I found was genotype. Okay, so your genes. We have all these genes. The American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology released a research on how diabetes risk alleles increase risk of postpartum weight retention. All right, so let's translate that. And this was a small study, but the small studies really pave the way for larger studies. So it's not something that should be really ignored. What it was showing is that people who, I think it was about 273 women, so it was a small study. The women who were having trouble with postpartum weight retention while exclusively breastfeeding, a lot of them also had genotypes for risk for diabetes. And it could be related in that way. And so also there are genes for fat metabolism. Your fat metabolism is increased during lactation, but how much it's increased really depends a lot on genetics. So some people are going to mobilize more fat than others, and a lot of that just really has to do with their genes, and it's not a factor that you're able to control. Psychosocial factors. This is huge because stress is the main psychosocial factor right after having a baby. And stress, you could bring up work, you could bring up finances, you could bring up minority status, and all of that relates back to stress. And all of those psychosocial factors have been implicated in weight retention after having a baby, the inability to lose weight after having a baby. There was a Danish study, a pretty large one, over 37,000 women, and it looked at the link between depression, anxiety, the stress of economy or going back to work. And there was a huge link, depression and anxiety during the pregnancy as well. And there's a huge link to that, how the body handles that stress and how it holds on to weight. And it's a huge factor. There's also postpartum depression. There's a link between postpartum depression and weight retention. And you could say that weight retention could be a factor in postpartum depression because of all of the identity stuff that I mentioned before, that that we have so much identity in our body and unfortunately in our shape that when it's out of your control and you don't look the way that you want to look, or you don't look in the mirror the way you think you look in your head, it could be a factor. So if you're experiencing postpartum depression, we don't know if what causes postpartum depression also causes weight retention, or if they're linked more directly than that. But either way, if you're experiencing depression after having a child, you should get the help you need. Sometimes you really need some professional help to get through those emotions and to work through it and to get to a healthy place, to be better for yourself and to be better for your family. So get the help you need. I'm going to put a link to the couple of different times I've covered PPD from different angles. Also, if you've had a hospitalized infant, there is a higher incidence of weight retention after that experience, also again leading back to stress. And interestingly enough, if your baby was under 7.7 pounds, there is a link to higher weight retention in the mother. And I need to look into that a little bit more because that's pretty wild. I mean, a lot of babies are under 7.7 pounds. So that's something to look into a little bit more. Sleep. Right. Okay. So everyone says sleep when you can. Okay. But when can I sleep? Seriously. Chart out my day and tell me when I should be sleeping, because that's a really tough one. And I do have recommendations for gentle sleep coaches if you need that. But there was a study that showed that sleeping fewer than 5 hours per day was a strong link as far as weight retention at the 1 year mark. Under 5 hours a day. So I think that we can all aim for more than 5 hours a day. It's very difficult because not only are you running around the house trying to get things accomplished and try to not live in a trash pit. I mean, you don't want your house to look like that. So you wait till the kids are asleep and then you run around trying to pick everything up. And then you need some time to chill out and watch some Netflix, right? So you get to the point where you're not actually sleeping because you're trying to make your house a livable place, and you're trying to have some identity as yourself without kids running around pulling on you. All understandable, but this is a very short amount of time. And if you're able to get to sleep earlier, or if you're able to enlist help so that you can take a nap during the day, that also helps. When we're stressed out, when we're a lack of sleep, the body produces increased cortisol to help us get through that. So we're in this fight or flight survival mode. And that's a factor in and of itself that causes us to retain weight. So try to manage your stress as best as possible. I just started Tai Chi. I'm an expert now, 2 days in. So I'm a YouTube expert now. So I'm trying that. I'll let you know how that goes. Another thing is spacing of pregnancies. Sometimes you have pregnancies one on top of the other, and that also impacts your weight retention. Maternal age. The older you are at the birth of your child, the more difficult it is to shed that baby weight. Employment factors, birth control methods, and other medications can also have an impact. Physical activity. I'm a big fan of having fun with physical activity. You do not need to go to the gym to torture yourself. You can. I love YouTube, the Tai Chi I mentioned, and I love Zumba, and I'm doing kettlebell stuff, and I'm happy to share any of the links I've been using. I love doing the Fitness Marshall videos, and now I should tag him. So he's awesome. He's always really fun, and I'm always smiling. I called him my daily smile. You have to find your daily smile and do that. Yesterday, I played freeze dance with my kids, and that was activity, and I actually worked up a sweat. And so that's happy movement, and that helps to manage stress. And it's also physical movement that benefits your health in other ways. Physical movement benefits you in so many ways. Smoking cessation. Not that I'm advocating smoking. I am definitely not. If you quit smoking during your pregnancy, after your pregnancy, that also has an impact on your weight retention. So it's just something to keep in mind. That is a major step towards ongoing and comprehensive health. It does have waistline complications, but it's worth it. You don't want to be jeopardizing your health like that. So you'll get past that. It really will happen. Irregular eating habits after delivery. Okay, so that has to do with stress and self-care, and also other children. If there are other children in the house and you're taking care of a baby and a spouse and other kids, it can be really easy to forget yourself. It's very important for a lot of reasons to sit down with your kids and have family meals. Not only is it important for their relationship with food, but it's important to get food in you. It's very easy to get up and get more milk, or get a plate, or someone threw a fork, or we ran out of napkins. But you as the mother have to sit down and eat, because sometimes you get to the end of the day and those kids are in bed and you put on the Netflix and just go through a whole pint of Ben and Jerry's. Fish food is my favorite. But the reason why this happens is because you've neglected your nutrition throughout the day. You haven't gotten enough calories, so your body just starts screaming ice cream or whatever it is for you. For me, it's ice cream. So if you take care of yourself throughout the day, you're not going to fall into that late night mommy binge, which I did a whole nap time nutrition only on that and how that happens. Another big factor is thyroid dysfunction. When you get pregnant, there is an increased demand on your thyroid, and because of that, it gets bigger. If you had some kind of subclinical or even known thyroid condition before the pregnancy, it really puts you at a risk to have a hypothyroid condition after pregnancy. And your thyroid is really responsible for a lot of different things in your body, one of them being adequate use of your nutrients. And when you have hypothyroid condition going on, it can be very difficult to lose that weight as well. It's going to stay on you. So if you feel like that might be a factor, talk to your doctor about it. It's very common after pregnancy, and it really should get a full workup. So those are the main points that I found. There are so many factors that contribute to weight at any given point in your life, but specifically during breastfeeding. And the truth is that the decision to breastfeed shouldn't be made for weight. It should be made for the health of the mother and the health of the baby. And focusing on that weight and using weight as a goal, both during this time and any point in your life, really sets you up for failure. It doesn't indicate health. It's only the number on the scale. So what does indicate health? Your mood, your sleep quality, your overall quality of life, and certain lab values as well. It's very important to communicate with your doctor, to communicate with your dietitian, your therapist, any concerns that you have, so that you can work through these emotions. This is a very delicate time in your life, and you want to be the best you can be for yourself and for your family. So let's try to get the focus off of the weight, but I listed some reasons why they might not be completely in your control anyway. So any questions or comments or experiences or a thumbs up, thumbs down, topic suggestions, what have you, put it in the comments. I would love to hear it. And thank you so much for watching. Join me next week for Nap Time Nutrition. I have some really exciting stuff coming up. I think offhand that next week I'm interviewing Michelle Redmond of the Taste Workshop, who is a registered dietitian and chef, and we're going to be talking about which oils to use for cooking. So come see that. You won't want to miss it. And I will see you next week for Nap Time Nutrition. Arizona time, 1 p.m., which is the same right now as Pacific, and East Coast is 4 p.m. So see you then. Thank you so much.